Hello, everybody.
Hello, Wendy.
Hey, Wendy.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
The
of
United
America
States of America and
and
to the
To the
republic
republic
which stands one nation under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and
and
justice
justice
for
for
all.
all.
Thank you. Joellen, the four-way test, please.
Yes. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you. Welcome everyone to another Englewood Rotary Club meeting. It's so good to see you all. And we're in for a treat today. Our guest speaker, Leo Chubinishvili, will be giving us some useful tips on how to remain wealthy and also to pass on some of that wealth to our families and give some away to charity, like the Rotary Club. At this time, we will have words of inspiration by Walter Young.
Good afternoon, everyone. Actually, my son is doing a project for school, and he said, Daddy, he's doing a project on Nelson Mandela. And he said, read this, Daddy. So I'm going to read this on his behalf. This is from Nelson Mandela 1994 inaugural speech. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frighten us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your plan small, doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it is in everyone. So we let our light shine. We unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberate others. Once again, that was from Nelson Mandela, 1994 inaugural speech. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Walter. Do we have any guests? Alicia, do you mind introducing yourself? What's your name? Who invited you? And tell us a little bit about who you are.
Sure. My name is Alicia Olasinski. It's nice to see everybody. I know Leo through his company, and I was very interested in the topic when he started talking about it. So my husband and I kind of talk about this stuff, trying to look forward. And I've done a little bit with Access Wealth in the past. Thought it was just an interesting opportunity to maybe learn something, decide if it's something I want to talk to Leo about in the future.
Excellent. Thank you and welcome to Rotary.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Do we have any announcements? Okay, so now, yes, go ahead, Gail.
I just wanted to say that Access Wealth Management has been taking care of my finances for quite a few years. I've worked very closely with the founder, Bruce Mylov, and I know that Leo worked with him, and I've been pleased with the services that they provided me and my husband. And hopefully he will one day make me rich. Working on that. So I just wanted to say that about Leo.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yes.
Thanks, Gail.
Ellen? Yes.
Yeah, Donovan, I had written this to you.
Yes.
This is just a possibility in my mind of something that I'd like to do and get some help with. with board approval, of course. Was walking my little dog past the Englewood Library on Engle Street the other day, and I was sort of taken aback about how pathetic it looked, unkempt, unloved. And I thought it would be a good project to make it look better, just the outside. And of course, tout our club as being the people who did this. So it's for further discussion, but
Mhm.
I brought it up so everyone can have a thought about it. Thank you.
Thank you. I love the idea. Can you send more details to Talia and even a budget, how much it would cost us to do, and then we will work on it with the board.
Yeah, I just chat in the chat box told Talia that I will be joining the committee. So perfect
Okay.
timing.
Nice, perfect, great. Thank you. Any other announcements? Okay, without further ado, Ms. Charlotte Bennett-Schoen will introduce Leo Chubinishvili.
Good morning, everybody. And I told Donovan that it felt like fate when he asked me to introduce Leo. We all got his information in the email about this, but for the last 2 years, and particularly the last month or so, I've been working on a Englewood project that has put me in a position of asking people for a lot of money. And this is because volunteers have taken on the responsibility of moving that gorgeous house on Engle Street over to Eleanor Harvey Park. Leo, it's this gorgeous Queen Anne house, and Rotary members are involved. Oh, now you can see it nice and big. Rotary members are involved.
Beautiful.
It's doable. And I've been face to face with people. So I want to put you on that team, because then when you finish, you're going to tell me maybe Access Wealth is going to be a partner, or who else I should talk to. But I want to tell people that you are a certified financial planner. You work both professionally and as an investment advisor. You educate people to be financially independent. In terms of your work history, you have worked with investment planning, insurance and retirement planning, presenting and implementing plans for others. And you are a graduate of Franklin and Marshall College with a bachelor's in business administration, and your finance degree, CFP certification from NYU. So it was an awesome resume, and we thank you for coming, and we're looking forward to hearing you.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Great introduction here. I will share my screen. Just 1 second. Can everybody see it?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So I guess just before I start this off, I have 20 to 25 minutes that I will present my presentation here. If you could just mute yourselves maybe while I'm doing it, and I'll leave last 5-10 minutes for questions and anything goes, conversation, anything that you like to ask. I was really looking forward to doing this in person, as we can have a more engaged and resourceful conversation. But I guess since the pandemic, we've all gotten used to doing things virtually. So we'll get it done, no problem. So as mentioned before, my name is Leo. My last name is Chubinishvili. Yes, very difficult last name to pronounce. You can just call me Leo. As Charlotte mentioned, I am a certified financial planner. I'm an independent financial planner and an investment advisor. What that means, being independent, is that, well, we are privately owned, but we do not have any ties with bigger corporations, bigger banks, and so therefore we do not have any proprietary products. That allows me to give wider range of investment advice, planning advice, and offer wider range of products to my clients and to people that I work with. I'm also what you call a fiduciary, excuse me. That means that I have to keep my client's interest ahead of mine. So I have to act in their best interest at all times. I guess that's pretty similar to Rotary Club's motto, which is service above self. I love that. So that being said, the topic generational wealth is a very large topic. We can talk about these hours, but I will talk about some of it today. Good thing is I can't bore you because it's only 25 minutes of talking. So we'll just jump in right in. So as a planner, I cover all areas and topics that impacts your ability to be financially independent. But today we'll talk about cash flow planning and ultimately how to allocate your savings. We'll talk about the investment plan. We'll talk about the insurance and estate plans as well. And ultimately at the end, we'll just conclude. So unfortunately, there is this perception in this world with the majority of the population that when you make money, income, wherever you make your money, right, you should first spend it. And then if there is anything left, then you should save it. Well, I would argue that equation is very wrong. It should be income less savings equals expenses. So first you save money and then you spend. Now, a lot of people could say that, you know, Leo, I don't make enough money to save. And again, in extreme situations that could be possible, but most cases you can definitely save money. Every dollar counts, especially when we talk about generational wealth. And over time, it matters. As long as you have the discipline, as long as you do it consistently, it all adds up, and I will show you how. This quote, the bottom here, making money and keeping the money are two totally different things. It is very true. I will tell you a good story. Comes from a book called Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. And he talks about these two men that were born the same day, sometime in the 1930s. One man was a famous investment banker, was making millions of dollars a year, lived a very lavish lifestyle. And the other man lived in the state of Vermont, had a minimum wage job and worked at a gas station all his life. They both actually died the same day, I believe, but the investment banker left no money to his heirs. In fact, his estate owed money. And a man with less income, in fact, minimum income, he left $7 to $8 million estate to his kids. So it's, in this sense, it's all about keeping what you make, and it doesn't necessarily matter how much you make. So, I'm sorry. So what the next question, I guess, before we move to the next page, the question that comes up is, okay, I save money now. Well, where do I save it and how do I save it? So I have developed, I call them buckets of money. There are three different asset classes here. We have liquid assets. Liquid assets are cash and cash equivalents, anything that can be turned into cash within a couple of days, including bonds, stocks, mutual funds. So this is your short-term and long-term goals. Retirement assets mostly is your longer-term goals. And then we have illiquid assets, which are real and personal assets. So we'll dive deep in each of these assets briefly. So under the liquid assets, we have three buckets. I mentioned a checking account because I noticed that a lot of people keep too much money in their checking account that need be. And again, the interest rate on checking account is zero. So your money isn't doing anything at all. And you want your money to work for you. So you should keep at least up to 1 month in your checking account of your spending. As the bucket gets closer to be empty, then you get paid again next month and it fills up. The savings account is really for your emergency purposes. The rule of thumb is that you should keep 3 to 6 months of your monthly non-discretionary expenses in there. Non-discretionary expenses are your bills, your mortgage payment or your rent, food, insurance, utilities, anything that you need to pay to survive. So if anything goes wrong, let's say you lost a job, you have at least 3 to 6 months where you don't have to sell any investments, especially if it's a down market, and you can have that cushion there. Anything really after that, we can utilize what you call a brokerage account. Brokerage accounts are very flexible. It can be as conservative as you want or as aggressive as you want. Obviously, if the money is needed, let's say within 2 years, you know you can't invest in anything that's variable because you need to protect that money, right? So you can find some fixed oriented investments like a treasury bond, for example. And as you invest for a longer term horizon, you would want to take advantage of compound growth over time. And we'll talk more about that. The retirement assets, there are really two buckets here. There is a pre-tax, which means that before you pay any tax, you make contributions today. And when you start using it in later life, you pay tax. And then the after tax is you make after tax contributions today. And in fact, it would be tax-free when you start using it. Very powerful. It's also called Roth. The retirement assets, although when we talk about generational wealth, it's really all about you. Because if you don't have enough money saved for your own retirement, then you would have to dip in some of the other assets, like let's say selling your house or downsizing in order to live during your retirement years. And remember that you can never borrow money to retire. You can borrow money to buy a house or start a business or pay for college, but you can never borrow money for retirement. And illiquid assets is real and personal assets. These are not necessarily a ways to save money, but they're definitely transferred. They're part of your net worth, and they're definitely transferred to your heirs, to next generation. There are appreciative asset like a real estate. Your house tends to grow in value over time. Or depreciative asset could be your car that basically loses 30% of its value within the first year you buy it. We can argue whether a house is an investment. It's more of a need for you to live, but obviously it does appreciate in value over time. As far as planning goes to transfer your assets, it could take a little more planning for that. Also, important thing to mention, these are tangible assets more or less, but it does bring in that emotional importance to your generational plan. Because if you have, let's say, a vacation home that gets transferred to your kids that tends to keep the family together, or jewelry that could be a memory for you and for your family and generations down. I love this quote: many drops make a bucket, many buckets make a pond, many ponds make a lake, and many lakes make an ocean. And in regards to our presentation now, it has many different meanings. Like some of you might remember in earlier days where you had to make raindrops into your savings account, and over time you built maybe into ponds and lakes. It also talks about the compound growth, that every drop matters. In order to have ocean at the end, you need to save every dollar or grow every dollar or make sure your dollars work for you. So now we have just this, I probably went too quick, so we can talk more about it at the end, but now we just have established a cash flow plan. We established where to save money and how to save it, what buckets should we utilize. Now the next question is, well, how do we grow our savings? So going to lump these first three together, we must identify our goals first, right? Am I saving money to buy a house in 2 years? Is it my down payment, or am I saving money for my retirement, let's say? Well, that tells us the time horizon. And ultimately that brings us down to level of risk. Again, if I need money in 2 years, I know I can't take too much risk, maybe no risk at all. For a longer term, maybe I can take more risk because more risk has a higher likelihood of earning higher interest rate over time. Number 4 and 5, right? That brings us down to picking an investment, whether it's just one investment or it could be a portfolio of your investments. So usually portfolio is better because you can diversify across different other investments. So in other words, put your eggs in different baskets, and that's tend to mitigate your risk. So let me just, I guess before I move on, the number 6, also very important. And I want to show you a chart after this. Take advantage of time, not timing. A lot of people get caught up into timing the market. Is it a good time to buy? Is this a good time to sell? People tend, you can get lucky once or twice. Nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody knows what will happen in the future. So as long as you take advantage of time as opposed to timing the specific market, you'll be better off. And let me show you the power of time. So this is a chart that shows data from 1950 all the way to 2017. So this is 67 years of data here. Now in green, we have stocks, blue is bonds, and gray is 50-50 portfolio, diversified. Now, if you had invested money in any 1 year out of the 67 years, you could have made in stocks, you could have made as much as 47% that 1 year, or you could have lost as much as 39%. Now, that is just a random event. That we're looking at what, 40, 30, 86% of variability here. That is random. Now, if you take that over 20 years though, you can see that any 20-year period during the 67 years, you in stocks, you would have at least averaged 7% annually, or as much as 17%. Let's talk about diversifying. Let's say this is a 50-50 bonds and stocks, right? In 1 year, you could have lost 15%, but over 5 years, you would have at least made 1% annually, or as much as 21%. Time and diversification. Now, number 7 is also very important, compound growth. Even Albert Einstein said compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. Now, I have an example here. This is just straight math. It's based on facts. So let's say a 30-year-old starts investing $10,000 a year and does it for 40 years up until age 70. Based on the fact that S&P 500 index, which is the top 500 companies in the United States, have averaged over 10% a year since the 1950s, let's assume that person does the same, 10% a year. Now, in 40 years, that person will have over $4.4 million. And that's from compound growth. The crazy fact is that 10,000 times 40 is $400,000. So they've put in 400,000, but yet they have 4.4 million. Compound growth. So now we have covered the cash flow. We dealt with accumulation phase, saving money. We have an investment plan now. We're going to grow the money over time. But no, the plan isn't good if we can't protect our assets. And unfortunately, in today's world, anybody can sue you for anything, any amount. So liability insurance is important. Obviously, you probably have homeowners, you have auto insurance. Umbrella is a great way to cover your liability exposure because it goes over both your homeowners and auto insurance. Life insurance is a great tool to transfer wealth to your heirs. It's also tax-free. Long-term care insurance, this is a custodial care for, let's say, nursing home purposes. I've seen way too many people spend all of their wealth essentially to nursing home. It could cost as much as $25,000 a month. So it could make sense to have a long-term care insurance to protect your generational wealth. And disability insurance, it's more of an income protection during your working years. If you become disabled, then you get some of the income. Usually they give you 60% of your salary. Savings alone might not be enough to achieve financial independence. Insuring your assets is equally important. So the estate plan, again, you need really 3 documents to have your estate plan. Will, this is how you transfer your wealth to whom you want, to how you want. Living will, healthcare directives are in regards to your medical needs. So if you become incoherent, let's say somebody has to make medical decisions for you. Power of attorney is in regards to your financial decisions, right? So again, if you can't make those decisions, somebody else can for you. And this is a very powerful document, so you must choose a person you trust. You may need a trust at some point, and then charitable planning has been a big part of your estate plan as well, as some people tend to leave money to charities. Sometimes later becomes never. Do it now. A lot of people don't have wills established, so you should, if you don't have it, you should do it now. So as I'm concluding our presentation here, we basically covered 3 main topics. We talked about the accumulation phase, we talked about protection, and then we talked about your legacy. You must gain control over your money, or a lack of it will forever control you. That's a great quote. Some of the things that I didn't have a chance to talk about that would be important, for example, is what would be the most tax efficient manner in order to start distributing money from your savings as you retire. So what now? You're probably asking yourself, okay, this was great. I think I understood it. What are my next steps, right? Well, I have some questions here for you that I encourage you to think about, right? How much do you spend? How much do you need to live on? Then how much are you saving? Are you saving? What are you saving for? Where are you saving? When do you need the money by? How are you invested? What strategies will you use to facilitate wealth transfer? And many more. And if you don't want to do this yourself, you can always find an advisor, a financial planner. People like me are in business to help others more than anything. So if you had any questions or needed any help, just to have a conversation or share some concerns, I'm very happy to talk about that or set up a call. I'm happy to do that. So I think at this point, I don't know how much time that was, but at this point, we'll just jump into questions. Anybody that has anything that want to talk about, please, anything goes. And don't
I have
be,
a question.
please.
No, I have a question. Your chart that you used to show the growth and the graph that you used
Yes,
is only as far as 2017.
yes.
Do you
Go
have
ahead.
anything more updated? Because I know things have changed in the last 5-6 years.
Yes, I can definitely find you. I just had this here. I can send it to you, the updated one. But you are absolutely correct. The things have changed. The last 2 years have been a wild ride, right? Starting with 2020, when COVID started, market dropped 35%, and it came back twice as much. And now first 6 months, it's been a down market. So I will, if I may grab your email after this, I will email you updated charts.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any questions? Any comments?
I have,
Can I ask a question?
I'm sorry.
Please.
I'm just curious about the timing of things, Leo. Like, we're kind of like a mixed group here, right? Like you got someone like me, I'm an older parent with young kids, probably
Oops.
Alicia, you just muted yourself.
think the host muted me. Can you
Well,
hear me?
no, I'm sorry. That was a
I
mistake.
apologize.
Mhm. I
Oh, okay.
apologize.
Is it okay for me to ask a question?
Oh, yes, please. Yes.
Okay. So I was just asking about like the timing of developing a financial plan, like when the right time is, because some people on this call may be closer to retirement and have already raised their children. Someone like me, I've got young kids, still 15 years away from retirement. What's the right age to be doing a formal plan versus just having investments in play?
So, excuse me, that's a great question, Alicia, thank you. So obviously, the earlier you start planning, better off you will be. I usually, my youngest clients are in their 30s and the oldest are in their 90s. But earlier you start, better off you will be. Each stage of your life has different objectives and goals. Like if you're in your 30s, you're just starting your family, well, you need to plan for, your college education maybe, or buying a house, as you go, and then the goals change and transfer into more retirement oriented things. So I don't think there is a specific time. I think earlier you start, better off you will be. Definitely you want to do it before you retire. So retirement projection is a very important part of the financial plan, as we can tell you the likelihood of basically running out of money. Do you have enough money now so you could retire, let's say in 5 years? And is that money enough to last you for end of your days? Did that answer your question?
It did, and it sounds like even once you're in retirement, a projection like that would make sense. So, yeah, thank you.
Diane?
Hi, thank you so much, Leo, for your presentation. It was very good.
My
And
pleasure. Thank you, Diane.
it reminds me of one of my bosses from Mount Sinai, the Senior Vice President of Finance. He always said, and the head of Goldman Sachs, one of the partners, always said, Diane, remember, pay yourself first. And that's the message I got from you. So here's my question.
Please.
A lot of parents are older parents now, and they have kids in college. So they're taking out loans for college. The top universities are now $92,000 a year. They're trying to put away for retirement, and they still might have money left over in their mortgage. What buckets are the most important? Is it better to borrow for college and sock away as much as you can for retirement, or to remortgage your house? These are the kinds of questions that older parents are faced with.
Absolutely. Thank you, Diane. That's a great question. And these are, real life examples of people struggle with. So retirement always comes first. As mentioned before, you cannot borrow money to retire. And if you don't have enough money saved for your retirement, then, things will be tough, as you can't borrow anything. Now, between the two, college education and mortgage, right? Again, college tuition have gone insane. It's so expensive these days for your kid to go to college. And to me, personally, I don't think it's a bad thing for a child coming out of college to have a little bit of a loan. And that why is because it gives them an opportunity to learn about what it's like to have bills, what it's like to pay for those bills. So I've seen recently that, parents will cover, let's say 67%, and then the third child will take a loan. As far as the mortgage, it's difficult. Obviously, like you've seen what has happened last 2 years with the market, people overbidding 20-30% over their homes. Unfortunately, especially in New Jersey, you probably can't even buy a house without having a mortgage. So I would argue that a house is a better investment in a way, from money standpoint, just because if let's say you buy a house and you pay mortgage for 18 years, then you could potentially take a home equity loan or refinance, cash out refinance. You can create more money out of your home equity, and maybe you could use that money to pay for your kids' college education. And then later in life, if the kid takes a loan later in life, when you're stronger, you can help them pay for those loans. But I would go first retirement, second your personal need to live in a house, and then 3, college education.
Thank you so much.
Mayor Wells.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for such a lovely presentation.
Michael?
2 things. What are the governing rules and the maximum that you can keep in any institution? And do you think it wise to go beyond that in this day and age?
Well, just to rephrase what you said, what do you mean institution? Do you mean a stock, like a corporation?
When you hold cash in a place.
I think, Mayor Wiles, I think what you're referring to is the FDIC insurance that us
Yeah.
banks are holding. Our banks all holding at 250. Depending on how you title it and how you can use trusts and everything else, you can always make it more and more and more. And then there are companies, which is what I specialize in up here, that we can do an investment in one thing that spreads it out through many, many, many banks. So I think that's what you're referring to, like an ICS product or something through the company called Intrify. Any questions, you can call me. I'll give you more information.
Okay, thank you. And
No problem.
And the second question is, what is the temperature that you think is wise, given the economy the way it is? Is it to put something in bonds? I know it's a personal preference for where people are doing it now, but as we are an older group, as it were, do you feel that that's safe? Accounts go down, but if you hold the bond till the maturity, you're going to get what you anticipated out of it. Is that really what you think is safe going into this economy?
So, it's a type of question that's very individual. It really depends what you're looking to accomplish. I think that if you have a longer time horizon, let's say, I can give you like 3 different examples. Let's say one person doesn't need any of that money and is fully for the generational wealth. I don't need this money for next 30, 40 years. I'm just going to give it to my kids. Well, then I don't see why you would want to invest in bonds at all, because we know based on facts and based on historical data that stocks do more. So you can invest yourself in equities. Most people have both, right? Like diversified, moderate level portfolio that has, let's say, 60% in the equities and 40% in fixed income bonds. That gives you a great way to manage your things, because the bonds will be for your short-term needs, and then you also have equity exposure to give you a long-term return. I think right now, if you have short-term goals like a 1 year, 2 year, we haven't seen yields on treasury bonds, for example, as high in a long time. So it'll certainly give you a better rate than a CD, for example, at a bank. I would probably, again, depending on what the situation is, but it would probably for a year or 2, you could invest in bonds and get a better return.
Or municipal bonds would be better than T-bills.
Well, so muni bonds are tax-free, right? So then you would have to calculate what the tax equivalent rate is. So if you are in the highest tax bracket, then yeah, muni bonds would absolutely make sense. I think municipal bonds are a great investment for people that have a lot in income. But they are very safe, right? I don't know how much you know about municipal bonds, but they're rated between AAA all the way down to non-rated. So any high quality municipal bond, especially bonds that comes from what you call general obligation municipal bonds are backed by the property taxes. So like Englewood could issue a general obligation muni bond. And those tend to be the safest as opposed to revenue bonds, which are backed by the revenue, by the tolls, let's say, or parking tickets. So, there is a lot that goes on, but I think it's a good investment overall. Sure.
Thank you, sir. Well done.
Thank you, Leo. Well, this has been very informative, and I'm enlightened, and hopefully you are too. So thank you, Leo, for coming, and you please stay until we're done. At this time, we're going to turn over to Suzanne Fettner.